Welcome. I'm John Reardon. I work with leaders and teams to help them expand their capacity to do great stuff in the world. I'm here today with Jason Matchett, who is the Chief Solutions Officer and CEO at the PartNERD Group. They are an IT firm that will be your full-time or part-time IT consultant. So Jason, welcome.
Welcome.
Looking forward to the conversation. First, let's just hear a little bit about your company and what you guys do. On the website, it says that PartNERD was born out of the relentless drive to uphold commitments and provide solutions. Say a little bit about what you guys do as a mission.
Our mission is to provide exceptional IT support. We're an outsourced IT department, but we can serve as a full IT department if you don't have one, or we can augment your existing staff to fill in a skill set that you might not have.
Great. Sounds like something that'll be in demand in times like this. You're a veteran, and a lot of your team members are veterans. Tell me about your experience and what has that taught you, and tell me about why you bring veterans on your team.
I've been asked that many times about why I hire veterans, and honestly, it's because I know exactly what I have to work with from the moment they walk in the door. With a veteran, I know that if I tell them they've got to be on the other side of DC at a certain time, they're going to be there 15 minutes early, because if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. I know that veterans know that they're going to follow the rules no matter how stupid they think they are, because there's a reason that the rule is there, even if you don't understand what that rule is or why. I know they're going to stay till the job is done. There's no 5 o'clock quitting time, got to get home. And most importantly, I know that they share the same core values that I do, which is respect, ownership, and integrity.
Awesome. Thank you for your service, and please thank your team members. We appreciate it tremendously.
Every day we do.
Awesome. Tell me just briefly a little bit what you learned from your experience in the military. What has that taught you now in the business world, as a private industry, as a small firm, whatever? How does your experience there apply?
My experience in the military, most importantly, taught me to get it done. The culture that we've created here in this environment is own it, keep it simple, and get it done. And some days we end up blowing it up, but that's okay.
I can imagine how that relates to the things you are about in your everyday business in the IT world. Right. So what we're going to be doing this morning is walking through this 3 keys in a crisis model and using that framework to walk you through that as an organization, as a team, and how it applies to your company. And then we're going to see what experiences you've had with some of your client organizations and how this might apply to them to help them figure out how to get focused and on track in such a tumultuous time.
Definitely, it definitely is. It's affected me and all of our customers.
Yeah, right now, obviously, everybody is scrambling to figure out how to get back on track, get on track, get focused, figure out the priorities, right, and then continue to try to sustain their work, their organization, their company, their business, their mission. And so there's 3 keys in a crisis. There's a workbook that folks can download and use to follow along. And if you look, there you go, you look right on page 1, and I'll just summarize, 3 essential questions that keep coming up over and over when I speak to leaders in every sector in the time of turmoil like this. The first is, what the heck is our mission, right? In the midst of this turmoil, like, are we on track, or do we have to completely revector? What is our mission right now? And what are our priorities today? And those may change day by day, but what are they right now? What do we need to focus on? Second is the whole communications challenge, right? Who do we need to be in touch with? How do we stay connected as a team? How do we stay connected with our customers, our stakeholders, partners, et cetera? And what's the key information that needs to be exchanged? And then third, the tools, the practical side. How do we actually do that? What are the tools we're going to use to get that job done? Because that can be an incredibly limiting factor if they don't have the right tools. Then it can also be a complicating factor if they're trying to use the wrong tools to do the wrong job. And I'm sure you've had a lot of experience around that.
You can definitely do more harm than good, depending on which tool you implement.
So the challenge that the model points out is that these three intersect and they each impact the other. Each of these elements impacts the other. So if you don't know what your priorities are, you don't know what you need to communicate. And if you don't have the right tools, you can't communicate that information anyway, and you won't be able to carry out the mission that you're trying to accomplish. So the tools can help or hurt. If you're sending the wrong messages, that can be very destructive. Conversely, you want to be on message according to the priorities that are at the top right now. So these three elements intersect, and the challenge is to find that sweet spot amongst the three. So let's take a look at how this applies to you. I'm going to turn to the second page, and we're going to look at mission. So what is your mission in this specific situation? Every organization needs to ask themselves this. And there's three simple options. Again, oversimplified, but three general options. Option A, no change. We're right on target. We need to keep doing exactly what we're doing. There may be some adjustments we need to make, but we are on mission. Option B, significant change, but not complete. We have to adjust how we carry out our business. We need to alter our business in some way, make some adjustment to mission or tactics. And then third, complete change. An organization, a company, a business that needs to reinvent itself on a dime. And they've got to completely come up with a new business or totally new way of doing business. So let me ask, which category do you think describes you guys at Partnered?
I'm pretty sure that we're in the no change or very, very limited change category. Our mission is to provide exceptional IT service, and we can continue to do that with some small limitations. We're not going to be going on site as often, but we can definitely continue. It's more important than ever right now to make sure that that's our mission and gets completed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I can only imagine. What kinds of adjustments do you have to make? Like you said, if you can't go on site and you can't do those visits, is that a big disruption or a minor disruption for you? What about for your customers?
It's not a major disruption. Almost everything, we're unique in that the service that we provide, unlike an HVAC company, we can do almost everything we need to do remotely. There are times when a machine can't power on, or there's a hardware change that we would normally go on site to do. In this case, we may delay that, or we may actually just find the right time and with the right circumstances in place to go ahead and make the switch.
Yeah. Have your staff been concerned about what they feel comfortable doing in terms of going out and interfacing with customers? Do you find that changing day to day as news emerges and new steps emerge from authorities?
Well, that goes back to the team that I have. For the most part, we're programmed to be able to run into a burning building and not think twice about it. So as the veterans, for the most part, they're not concerned. We're taking precautions. Obviously, we do have some concern, but for the most part, we don't show it. And that as from a leadership role, that's important for me to recognize that, because I have to acknowledge that to my team in this time of panic. Even though you may not be seeing it, we know it's real and we've got to address it.
Yeah. Tell me about how you see that impacting your customers in terms of their concerns, and how are you addressing it in terms of their concerns?
So for the most part, we're leaving that up to the customer to dictate whether or not it's something that they can wait to have us come on site and do till this blows over or not. For example, let's say your laptop completely dies and it's a critical component for you to do what you need to do. We may decide not to come in and try and repair it. We just may ship you a new laptop, get you set up remotely and back in business. So there's a functional and financial discussion that has to take place, a business decision.
So it sounds like you could continue forward, again, on mission, even as things, if things become more restrictive, you'd still be able to function and you'd still be able to deliver value to your customers.
We believe so. Obviously, we'll have to make some additional adjustments, but I don't anticipate us being severely impacted by our ability to deliver our service. Yeah. Now, if our customers aren't open, then that's
right.
I can't deliver my service to a business that's not open.
Yeah, right. And I would imagine alternative approaches, delivering things to wherever the customer needs you to deliver it to. Like you said, obviously, if you're working remotely, great. but in terms of whatever physical access, as long as it's safe and acceptable, you could engage a customer at their home or wherever they happen to need you to deliver the service.
Absolutely. We do recognize that the supply chain has been affected, so that could impact timeliness for deliveries, getting parts or equipment. So that's another adjustment that we have to keep in mind and communicate.
So you guys are 100% on mission, and you do need to make some adjustments, as we'll get to in a moment, around priorities and tactics, as you've been describing. Just mention, what kinds of impacts have you seen as far as this mission concept with some of the types of organizations you're working with?
Our customers are in multiple industries. So some industries are obviously affected more than others. Most of our retail customers have shut down, and not by their choice, but so that greatly impacts them. The customers that are essential, like medical or veterinary practices,
right,
they have to stay in business, but they have to make changes to the way that they deliver service.
And how about anybody that you've worked with that's responding? So you guys are in category A, the on mission, and some of the healthcare folks, and maybe it's other IT, et cetera, that you maybe work with. Some of the business would be in that second category, having to make major change. Sounds like some are in that third category if they're shut down. Have you seen anybody come up with any innovative solutions or alternative businesses, or something that really has impressed you around some creative, innovative response?
Yeah, actually, one of our customers writes curriculum, educational curriculum. Mm-hmm. And they're in the business model of selling curriculum to state educational facilities from high level and on down. Yep. And they completely stopped what they were doing, writing curriculum, and changed to have everybody, instead of write, videotape presenting the curriculum. Yep. And it's all been released. It's for public consumption. Here's what you do since all your kids are stuck at home. Here you go. So they've changed from their business model has changed. They're now thought leaders and rescuers, as opposed to vendors. And they made a shift really quickly. They pivoted quickly and were able to help everyone.
Great. That's a great example, Jason, of that shift in mindset that it takes to go from what we've been doing and how might we do something creatively. I've been citing an example of an events company that has been, that's sitting on $1 million worth of tents and tables and chairs and equipments for weddings and all these, outdoor venues and all this stuff. And they came up with the innovative idea to offer those at a very discounted rate to hospitals and any other, service, healthcare, et cetera, organization that needs shelter, equipment, chairs, intake tables, whatever. And they're not going to be turning a big profit, but at least they can continue to work and they can continue to keep the lights on, so to speak, with the company. So finding, for some organizations, it's a lot of us, it's somewhere in the middle. And for some, it's category C is this complete sea change in terms of what we need to do. So we've talked about mission. You guys are on track. You're in that first category, making some tactical adjustments, but your mission is on target. How has that impacted your priorities? How's this situation in the turmoil that's going on? Has that changed your business priorities? And if so, what are your priorities now?
Well, it definitely has shifted our priorities. The number one priority to us internally as a company is making sure that the team understands that we're okay, that we're fully functional, that we're going to take the precautions that we need to protect everybody, but that the mission continues. We're in a good spot. The mission continues. So the priority really for our customers, what we're going to focus on with our clients, is making sure that they are functional. And we've always tried to build in some kind of component that puts a plan together for disaster recovery or continuity of operations. What happens if you lose your email? Or what happens if we have a weather emergency and you're stuck at home for 3 days? So there's some component of that we have already in place with our customers. And now we just have to make sure that they're functional.
Yeah, right. You can't imagine for the folks you're working with how they're disrupted, their businesses in a turmoil, and how their priorities are shifting. And I suppose that then leads when we talk to you about communications and then the tools, how you probably are seeing all kinds of disruption in those categories for some of your clients. So your priorities have shifted to some degree. Priorities for your clients have shifted tremendously. Let's move on to page 4 in the workbook. Let's talk about communication, and let's see what you have to say about communication within your own organization, and then we can talk about some of those client situations.
Definitely within my organization, we need to make sure that the team is all on the same page, that we are prioritizing our customers, we're prioritizing how we deliver our service, that we understand what our current limitations are, like supply chain and not being able to go on site as often as we regularly would. So that leadership team communication is something that obviously we're talking about different things now than we were before, focused on that client piece. When it comes to the staff and the beauty of having a small organization like we do, tight-knit group, we're all of the team presents some kind of leadership role in this organization. So there's the communication that's happening between the leadership team is also taking place with the team itself.
Yeah.
And
let's talk about communication then with your stakeholders, with your customers. What are the key points, key messages that you're trying to make sure that they hear from you?
With the customers, the most important is to let them know that we're open and we're here to service them. We are considered an essential business, so we want to reach out to all of our customers and say, hey, we're here, what do you need? Let's implement that plan that we put in place 6 months ago. Obviously, there's another component that we can do, which is we can possibly take advantage of the time that we have. If you're not having the foot traffic or you're not dealing with the customers' demand that you had before, let's take advantage of that and try and get some of the projects done that we may not want to interrupt your regular day with.
Yeah, right. That's great. So that there's, in other words, there is work that we can do with you during this time when your other business may be slower. You can do some of that maintenance work, some of that infrastructure work, the stuff you would otherwise be disruptive. Right.
Yes.
What channels are you using to reach folks with this message?
The first one is the interpersonal as it can get, and we pick up the phone and we talk to our customer and say, hey, how are you doing? Everybody okay? By the way, we're open. What do you need? And that the initial phone call of establishing that allows us to decide if we're going to communicate with them over different channels right now or later or set something up. We always use remote tools and video chat to get with our customers anyway. So it's not a shift in how we're delivering the service to them.
Tell me about cadence, and you know from a military background what that word means, and the cadence that you are finding effective with your team as a whole in terms of staying in touch. Like you said, you've got lots of random interactions ad hoc as necessary. Do you have tag ups daily, weekly? How has that changed given the situation?
We've shifted the cadence of our leadership meetings to be more structured than they were before. We're now doing a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just resetting our priorities to check up on what you've heard on the current status of businesses being closed and what the government's kind of enforcing on us. Internally in the team, we are doing morning stand-ups. It's just we call it morning formation, and we line up and we say, this is what we're doing.
Now, where'd you come up with that idea?
We don't do push-ups first thing in the morning. And then with our customers, at a minimum, we're doing a weekly check-in with them, but a lot of that's going to be dictated by what the customers are doing and what they need from us. And it's not one person on the team who's doing all the communication either. We want to make sure that they know that there's multiple people that they can talk to and reach out to if they can't get a hold of one of us.
Yeah. What about on the interpersonal level? You're a small team, and so maybe you're getting that interpersonal interaction along the way as you talk about business. Have you found a need to reach out and connect with your team members, one-to-one, apart from the day-to-day, crisis management type stuff?
I've known a couple of these guys for years, and so we hang out together on weekends sometimes, and families come over for Thanksgiving. So it's a tight-knit group. Obviously, in a larger organization, you can't do that, but I do recognize the importance of communicating on a personal level with the team after hours. We're constantly working anyway, so we're allowed to share jokes and side conversations about, hey, I was at the store and found this. And by the way, did you get any ammo? Everybody's stocking up on toilet paper, but are you stocked up on it?
Well, that's part of the culture. I understand. So your team is running your team is used to functioning in this distributed environment and all that, and you've got the tools you need. How about your clients? What steps do you take to help them figure out what tools they need in this very disruptive context?
Typically, we're going to do a 3-part assessment. The first one is going to be, what tools do you already have in place? We want to know, is it something that we can repurpose or reutilize? Maybe it's something that you don't know actually performs that functionality.
Right.
And we can toggle a switch and make it come to life. Or if you don't have something in place, then is the next solution that we find something that's going to integrate into your environment well? Is it going to have purpose long after fixing this immediate need? Okay. The second thing is it user-friendly? What's the learning curve going to be for your users? Because if it's not user-friendly, if it's too complicated or it's not efficient, the users aren't going to use it. Yep. And then third, whatever that solution is, we have to look and make sure what that risk is going to be. Is it going to cost us? What's the financial cost? What is the functional cost? Again, is it going to be efficient? Does it expose us to security risks? And is it even manageable? Do you want to put something in place that nobody's going to manage? Or what is the plan for management?
So I've got to ask, tell us, without naming any names, right? We'll protect the innocent. Tell us about a train wreck. Like, give us a war story. They thought they needed something, they bought the wrong thing, whatever. I'm sure you have a million of them. Give us a couple of those war stories and then we'll go to the success stories, but let's hear what you got.
So it happens typically more in environments that we're called into, pick up where somebody else left off. And I remember walking into a room and they asked us to clean out the servers, make sense out of the rack. And I started asking questions. Well, what is this one for? And what is this one for? And what is this one for? And the answer in most cases was, I don't know. It looks really expensive, but we don't know what it does. And come to find out that there was one or two of them in there that was, oh yeah, that's a $75,000 server that we've never used. We paid somebody to install it and set it up for us, and nobody knows how to use it. So that's
I'm cringing because that sounds like something I would do.
It happens more often than we want it to happen. But yeah, and now they're a $75,000 paperweight.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Jeez. Let's see. How about on the user-friendly side? That's another consideration, and it can have all the right bells and whistles, and it can have all the functionalities. But if the folks who need to operate it can't use it, what mistakes have you seen there?
Change management is a big part of the way we approach delivering services. So if we're going to make a change to your environment, and IT gets the bad end of the stick all the time, everything was working until you showed up. Right. And we've been forced to make a change. We've rammed it down somebody else's throat without considering what those effects are. Nobody's going to be happy and nobody's going to like us. So when we look at that, when we're talking with the leadership or the stakeholders about a solution, we want to make sure that that's something that is functional. My background is also in elementary education. So when I approach something, I try and craft the solution or craft the message or the package into some format that is digestible in different ways. I remember standing up in front of the classroom of 36th graders and teaching math concept, and you could see the light bulbs go on for 3 people. Yeah. Then you'd say, oh my gosh, well, how am I going to get more people to understand what I just did. So when we approach a solution, when we're figuring out how we're going to roll it out or if it's going to be effective, we have to take that into account. How are we going to make sure that everybody is comfortable, not just 3 and 30?
Right. Yeah. And then the third category in terms of security, obviously that is incredibly sensitive. Have you seen some mistakes there? And then what do you guys do to either prevent those mistakes or to address them when you come into a situation?
If it's something that we're building, the model in the IT industry shifted a couple of years ago. It was no longer reactive when it comes to security, and they try and build everything, whether it's a piece of software or architect some kind of infrastructure. Everything has at the fundamental level, at the foundation is security. So if we're coming into a situation, I've got one of my guys that is just absolutely honed into that, and he will come in and he'll just start pointing out and poking holes where we didn't know there were holes, right? So it's good to have that skill set on the team, somebody to be able to come in. And then we have third-party vendors that we work with that we can say, hey, while you're sitting at home this weekend, I need you to take a peek at this and tell me if something smells funny. And those are the kind of conversations that we can have, and looking at whatever that potential solution is, how it fits into the rest of the organization, and how it impacts that, what holes are created.
So let me recap in terms of how this model works, and again, finding the sweet spot among the three elements. So organizations have to assess their mission. Are they on mission? Is their mission disrupted to some extent, or is it disrupted completely? What is the key aspects and elements of communication that they need to sustain amongst themselves and with their stakeholders and customers? And then what are the tools they need, right? What do they have? What new stuff that they need? And is it going to work? So walk us through a couple examples that would take us all the way around the model in terms of looking for that sweet spot. Let's start with, a sort of a typical client, small business type situation. Do you have an example there?
So an example is I've got a jewelry store who is probably 25 or 30 employees on a regular basis, retail, open 7 days a week. They are obviously closed now or greatly limited in services, so their mission has shifted from selling to fixing. They're allowed to be inside and doing some of the jewelry work that allows them to repair or build new things. They're remaining operational, as in they're getting supplies and they're doing inventory, but they're just not seeing customers. So their shift in the way that they are communicating with their customers is, first they have to tell everybody, hey, we're closed, or by appointment only, and then figuring out how to manage that. There's obviously communication, somebody by the phone on a regular basis to answer all these calls. Hey, where's my $10,000 ring? Everything's safe. We've got it. We're taking care of it.
Yeah.
So there's some reassurance there as well. But another piece that they have is the tools that they had to implement, not just for communicating with their customers, but how they do business. One example is that on the back of the wall, on the back behind what you don't see in the retail section, the front store, is a checklist, a clipboard with a checklist of items that they need to get done. And they don't have people walking by on a regular basis and crossing off the things that need to get done. But the work is still getting done. So we help them implement a tool like Asana, which is a task management tool that allows them to assign tasks and make notes and close them out and complete them, so everybody knows what the status is and what has to take place next.
Excellent. And how about on the other sort of side of the scale, a large organization, a federal agency, state, local agency? What kind of context and example would you see there, again, walking through the elements of the three keys?
A large organization, especially something in the federal side, their mission, I don't know how flexible they are in their mission, right? Their mission has to continue. So they have to figure out another way to either carry out the mission or shift, maybe pause that mission and work on something else until this blows over. So their forms of communication are probably going to be more internal than they are external. And that presents a different set of tools that they may need to put in place. And if we're assisting a large organization like that, first we have to make sure that we're being mindful of their requirements, their restrictions in terms of the parameters, in terms of what we can do and what we can't do.
Yeah.
And then any solution that we implement, we have to make sure that they're going to be able to manage it, that they're going to have a team to support it. So we may have to train them. Also, sometimes life cycles of getting new technology introduced to an organization is a long process. And so maybe instead of finding a new solution, what we actually have to do is figure out a way to reuse, retool something they already have in place.
Great. Thanks, Jason. So we've walked through the model, we've walked through the elements, and you've given us examples. Let's just recap for you as you've gone through this for yourself and the organization for PartNERD. What's that been like as you've gone through it? What thoughts have come to mind? Has that been a value to you?
It definitely been a valuable experience and exercise going through this.
Great.
Even though our mission didn't change very much, we're still doing it. Our priorities did shift. It also helped me to put myself into my customer's shoes and help to identify what their needs were, communication tools, and it's allowing me to service them better by reaching out proactively and saying, hey, do you need this? Is there something that we can do? Right. A lot of what you have in this tool and this framework is critical for any disaster recovery or continuity of operations plans. Communications, who the stakeholders are and how you're going to communicate with them and what's important, how are the priorities going to be shifted. So I think it's a very, very valuable tool. Thank you for walking me through this.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I appreciate that. I'm glad it's of value. I am optimistic that it is a balanced approach that won't take a long period of time. You don't have 3 months to do a strategic reassessment of your business or your mission right now. A lot of organizations are having to turn on a dime and figure out what's their mission in light of this current situation, and what do they need to communicate, and what are the tools we need to get the job done. You could walk through this as an organization on your own. I'd be happy to take an organization through it more deeply and more thoroughly so that you can really do a thorough assessment, again, quickly, but thorough assessment of mission and impacts to priorities, communication needs internally and externally. And then folks like Jason at PartNERD can work with you to assess the tools that you have, see what tools you need, and make sure you've got the right set to get the job done.
I just want to add in there that we may have to go through this exercise a number of times in the next couple of days or next couple of weeks, depending on how things shift, the current situation shifts. So it's definitely something that you can redo multiple times to see where we are today.
That's a great point. Yeah. It may be an iterative exercise as new information emerges, as the context changes. Currently, as things in our area have been becoming more restrictive, and hopefully we'll get to that point where things begin to become less restrictive, and how can you respond very quickly to that change on the back end. Thanks for your time. Appreciate your input. And we'll have the information on the screen and in the text so that you can reach me if I can be supportive, reach Jason and his team at PartNERD if they can help you. We would love to have that opportunity, and we wish everybody the best. Stay healthy, stay connected to your friends and family, and we'll come out of this stronger than before.